Keith, it's great to see you.
Great to see you
Welcome
too, Neil.
to Club FESPA.
Thank you very much. It's always a privilege to be here.
And now just a little bit about yourself. Obviously, we know that you've been in the industry for quite a while. You're originally a Kiwi.
I still am a Kiwi.
Still Kiwi, well, very important.
Yeah.
And you've been a general manager and founder of Cactus Imaging. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business?
Yeah, well, sure. Look, we actually got into the industry quite late. My business partner, Warwick Spicer, was the CEO of New Zealand newspapers, and I was the sales and marketing manager there. And he sort of discussed it one particular Friday night after a few drinks and said, you know, we think we should be opening up a printing company. And I said to him, well, what do you know about printing? Mm-hmm. He said, as much as you, nothing. And I was 40, he was 52, 53 going on. And you look back now and you say, how stupid was this? You know, none of us had any idea about printing, but he had been at a trade show in Germany and saw the formative stages of the electrostatic printer. Yeah. And he came back and he sort of discussed it with me, and he said, you know, this is the future. This is what's going to happen. Print's going to go from analog to digital. I know we're getting all older, but it's an opportunity. Let's give it a go. And so we did, and we started in New Zealand, and after 12 months, and basically electrostatic, I suppose, was the opportunity to do shorter runs. If you wanted one print, you wanted two, you wanted 10, you wanted 20. And in those days, probably the cut-off point was about 50 prints compared to the normal avenues of printing, the analog way of printing, to be cost effective. So we figured it out and then realised that the New Zealand market wasn't really big enough if we wanted to reach the goals that we'd set ourselves. So we went to Australia, kept the New Zealand production plant, went to Australia, set up a sales arm there, and we were going to give it 2 years. Warwick went back after 12 months, and it got to the stage after 2 years we were printing more for Australia than what we were for New Zealand, and printing it in New Zealand and sending it back to Australia. And we got a pretty damn good reputation. We ended up buying a second electrostatic printer, and at that stage we set it up to print paper billboards. But talking with a number of people and a couple of advisors, I suppose, in a way, they said the future's not on paper. It's going to be in vinyl billboards. You know, you interchange them, you can move them around and do whatever. So we sourced an old ViewTech printer from out of the United States. Warwick went over there and had a look at it, and we bought it in. In 3 months we had to buy a second one, and 3 months after that we had to buy a third one. So it really took off, and you know, turnaround times went from 6 weeks to 10 days. You know, today they're 24 hours if you're lucky, but technology's helped you do that. And then after setting up in New Zealand and then setting up in Australia, we thought we were foolproof, so we moved and set up in India. Obviously still keeping the New Zealand production plant, the Australian production plant, which was going gangbusters at that time, and thought of another challenge, we'll go to India. So I spent a fair bit of time there initially. We set up the print plant as a joint venture with a company called BV Graphics in India, and at its peak we ended up having 10 5-metre machines there going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just printing 300,000 to 400,000 square metres a month. It was huge. And so that was this, and in the meantime, obviously through technological advances, Australia continued to blossom. New Zealand was going, probably levelling out a little bit, because the thing is we weren't there. So all turned out really, really good.
And so the last couple of years have been quite challenging. We've had COVID and those things. How have Cactus Imaging and yourself dealt with the challenges which COVID-19 has delivered us?
Well, if we'd all known about COVID, we probably would have done things a little different. Well, a lot of companies would have done things a lot differently. But one of the big things that happened with Cactus, and we made a concerted effort that with the advancement of technology And what I mean by that is the quality of the technology, the versatility of the technology. Once you had to buy a printer that would print billboards only, and if you wanted something at more high end, you'd have to buy one of them. But today it's very different. You can buy a printer that will print billboards, point of sale material, almost photographic, and so forth. So they're very, very versatile. So we saw a need that we had to diversify our business. And we went from just not a billboard printer, but to a retail printer, a point of sale, transit, construction work, and we were sort of fortunately helped in the construction area by laws that any construction site had to be surrounded by mesh. Builders and so forth, and they were paying for it, not the government. So we saw that opportunity and bought technology to suit. So where parts of the business when COVID hit, some parts of it dropped away, like outdoor, for instance. And when I say dropped away, it probably dropped by 30 or 40%. But in other areas that we were doing, they went up by 100%. So,
which areas were they?
A lot of them in the construction work, because there was all this money pumped into infrastructure. So that all happened. Not so much in transit, but certainly retail. And one that may surprise you is the horse racing game, because that never stopped. Right through the pandemic, it never stopped, and it was very, very well managed. But there were some huge people involved in racing. You got the likes of Ladbrokes, the Longines, and things, some of the top companies in the world. And it was all obviously on TV. Racing's very, very big in Australia. They'll bet on two flies crawling up a wall there. So we were doing the majority of work on all the racehorses in Australia, and that just took off. So that was one area that just kept growing, because, as I say, it attracted this huge audience who had nothing else to do. They couldn't go anywhere. Restaurants were closed, but racing. And talking to a friend of mine who's in the gaming area, betting turnover went up 73%.
Wow.
So it's a lot of money. So it attracted a lot of people into the racing game that hadn't been exposed for it before. So the big sponsors wanted their signage out there on television. So we were just inundated with work in that particular area.
So it's a good news story. So effectively, would you say that your business overall was up, down, level?
For 3 months, it probably dropped about 30%. And what we did, we never laid anybody off. But after 3 months, things really started taking off. So we had to bring all those people back that were on annual leave and so forth. And it just took off. And look, we're printing larger and larger volumes now than we ever have. So it's
great to hear. So I met you, it must have been about 7 years ago or so, I imagine.
Possibly even longer,
I've been here for 10 years or so. And in the last 10 years, what sort of technological developments do you think which has really changed the industry and changed your business?
Well, the one thing I believe, the technology, it's obviously got quicker. The head technology has also allowed you to produce to higher quality. And one of the things I was on the working board for Hewlett Packard for a number of years, and as machines got quicker and quicker, so did the quality drop. And I said the last thing you want to do is sacrifice quality for speed. And some listened, some didn't. So you saw a lot quicker equipment, a lot of higher quality, higher quality results from it. But one of the big things is that I don't believe that the print manufacturers done is that they only offered one part of the deal. And that was faster and faster machines, certainly higher quality machines. But any business is only quick as their slowest point. And nobody was offering the same automation and finishing.
Are we getting there for the automation side?
Well, it's got a way to go, but we took the bull behind the horns, and we met with Miller Welding ourselves and out of America, and between us we built a finishing machine to give you an idea of what it could do. is that it used to take us 2 people 35 minutes to finish a standard billboard, and the standard billboard in Australia is 42 square metres.
Yeah.
With this machine, we get 1 person in 3 minutes.
Oh wow!
So that allowed you with the faster machines to at least give you an opportunity to keep up with them, and sometimes get ahead of them.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So we altered our workflow and our work systems. That, you know, we'd have printers going all night, come back and the finishers have got plenty of work to do in the morning. It's all on rolls. Load up this machine, you know, and 10 or 12 minutes later they've completely finished a roll of print. So the next roll goes on and so forth. So we've spent a lot of money on automation in the finishing area. And to give you some indication, we've gone from 55 staff to 32 staff and printing an extra 100,000 square metres a month.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
So, yeah.
So you've been around the show, I mean, you've been here for 2 days perhaps?
Yes, I've been here, the whole lot.
The whole time.
Yeah.
So what have you seen out there which is really interesting, that's grabbed your attention?
Look, I suppose the major one for me at the moment is the development of the hybrid machines. And you've got, at the moment, you've got Fuji with theirs, and then you've got Durst with the P5 350 high-speed machine. And once upon a time with hybrids, they were either good at one of the parts or good at the other, and no good at the other, or it was a trade-off. So, you know, we always resisted the temptation to buy one and kept buying the specialist machines for the specific part of our industry. So what we wanted to do, whether it was a billboard machine, whether it was a high-end machine like latexes and things like that. This is obviously the higher quality, the slower they were at those particular stages. But when you see this P5 out at the moment, you know, close to 700 square metres an hour,
Fast.
Roll to roll, it's a seamless integration between that and the flatbed. The flatbed's producing the same speeds. If you want to slow it down to half speed, which is 350 square metres an hour, you're getting prints that you could use in any retail area you want. But the versatility of the equipment today is it's quite amazing. So, and I'll be fair, I haven't seen the EFI machine. But the other thing is it's in the fabrics. You see a number of the machines where the old days it was you print it and it goes through the calendar and so forth. Now, all these things now have integrated calendars in them, and that technology is well advanced, even to the extent that you wouldn't even know there's a damn calendar in the machine. So there's a lot of changes in technology. I think it's probably been held up a couple of years through this pandemic, but I really expect it to surge again in the next 4 to 5 years. I really do.
And you're a board member of FESPA Australia.
Yes.
Congratulations. And you've been joined by quite a few other members. I believe there's been a big push for membership in FESPA Australia.
Yeah, it's been quite amazing. Like, I think it probably was the last FESPA that I attended, so God knows where that was. It was Munich, I think.
Munich 2019?
Yeah. And Nigel had sort of convinced me to go on the board, got me at a poor moment one day.
Your arm behind your back,
And I said, well, yeah, okay, but if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly. I'm sort of not going to half invest in it. And obviously knowing you and the ruthless man that you are, I didn't want to let you down. And then we got Matt Ashman, who's managing director of Durst in Australia, involved. And I'm pretty pleased to say that I think it's gone from when Matt and I became part of it, from 28 members to 72, 74 now.
Wow.
But they're not just members, these people, they're the high-end companies, like the Durst, the EFIs, the Fujis, the Orifles, and it just goes on and on and on, the Halifax Vogels. And we've had a number of functions and they're all well attended, but it's just quite pleasing and refreshing to see all these people at the high end of the market. And I was talking to one of the major sponsors of a Futures Leader program, which we'll talk about soon, coming in, and he said to me, the way you guys have got this going now, and it's not just me, it's just not Matt, but Nigel's driving this. You know, there's Mark Brooks, David Asker from Imagebox. They're all great people, and they're dedicated to the cause. And he said to me, I believe that FESPA will be the predominant go-to place in a couple of years, and that's what we're working towards.
You talked about the Future Leaders Conference. So I believe in October you're going to have a conference and an awards.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, the Future Leaders particular.
Well, the Future Leaders thing is, I'm extremely excited about it, and it's been driven by Nigel. And one of the things I think the industry is lacking is young people coming through. We've got to attract them to the industry. You know, there's no trade course, there's nothing really. You go and buy, you know, you go and look for print staff. Where do you find them? You know, you might find them in a bar, you might find them in the street corner, who knows? There's no such educational thing coming through TAFE, universities or anything to get involved in print. So we've got to generate those ideas ourselves and generate the opportunity for young people to make a career out of print. You know, you only got to look around, and you know better than anybody that right around the world, print companies, a lot of print companies are still run by the people who are running them 20, 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. So we've got to attract these young people through the industry. So we've come up with this, what we call the Futures Leaders course, but it's very high end, and they're going to be mentored by the likes, hopefully you and myself and Matt and whoever at the high end of the market that we can get them. We want to bring them to FESPA in Munich next year, this person, but they've got to give a bit back. You know, they'll be highly educated. We've got professional educators in to be able and signing all that up at the moment. We've talked to a number of companies about sponsorship, and I think when we were talking to you yesterday, we had 38,000. Well, now we've got 48,000.
Oh, there we go.
And you know, once we bite you, we might have 58,000. So, you know, who knows? And but I'm particularly excited about it. But when we say the leaders program, it's not necessarily 20-year-old or 18-year-old. It may be somebody who's been in the industry for 10, 15 years. You know, might be in their 40s, but we see them as a future leader in this industry, and that we need to get them mentored, we need to get them interested, we need them to go around and talk to TAFEs and schools and so forth. So that's the whole idea of this thing, is that they spread the word about how good the print industry is, and you know, as well as I do, it becomes infectious. You know, you have functions like this, you know, FESPA, I believe, is the world's best wide format show, without a doubt. Just the great opportunities to get involved in it, and I think we've held off too long.
And so you brought, I mean, not you personally, but there's about 40 or 50 Australians that I know of who are at the show. They've travelled all this distance. Why do you think the Australian market is so keen to come to FESPA and come to see their European and world colleagues?
Yeah, good. It's a good question. I'm sure that you've had it in Europe, but there's been a lot of consolidation going on in the print industry in Australia and New Zealand, for that matter. The pandemic saw a number of the smaller companies go bust, saw a number of others being taken over by the bigger people. And I just see that, plus everybody wanted to get out. But I, you know, and I look at it for myself personally, is that we haven't bought a machine close to 3 years now. In fact, it was the last show here. Now, we've probably spent the best part of $22 million at FESPA shows. And people haven't been able to go and find the technology. If you're going to go and spend $1 million or $1.5 million, you don't do it over Zoom. No. It's not like buying a suit from somewhere, and if it doesn't fit, you send it back. You know, these are real big beasts, and you've got to be, you know, the feely, touchy, get your samples done, go and have a look at the engineering side of these things. And I think a lot of people have had that hiatus, if you like, of 2 or 3 years of not being able to do much in that area. And that's why there's a big contingent. I think it's about 73 people, I think, Australia and New
I've only
Zealand.
met 40, but I'm sure there's
Yeah,
more than that.
you'll see a few more tonight.
I bet you will, yeah.
And so yeah, it's very pleasing. And then we've got pack print coming up as soon as we get back to Australia, and that's smaller format as much. But you know, you're going to see these shows well attended, and I already know that pretty much everybody's here, plus another 15, 20 who will be in Munich next year, already planned for it, already looking forward to it, already sussing out equipment. So yeah, I only see next year just being bigger and bigger again.
So FESPA, I mean, you've been part of the FESPA family for a long time now.
Yep.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that you've always been passionate about it. Why?
I suppose it's a good question, but when you can come to one place and see everything under one roof, all the major manufacturers, you know, me personally, I'd have to travel, say, to America, to Europe, you know, all over the place to try and find what I could find here under one roof. Plus the people. You learn so much from the networking, and you've got to get off your backside and go and talk to these people because they're a wealth of knowledge. And how you progress your business, you don't keep reinventing the wheel. You talk to the people who have been there. Some of the guys here I've made good friends with now over the years. You know, if you've got an issue, you could ring them up or send them an email and say, I'm going through this issue, and I'm sure 99% of them have been through them all before. So it does, you know, you probably use the word family appropriately, because I think FESPA does become a family, and it's been great to catch up with so many of the people you haven't seen for 3 years here. And as I say, the advances in technology, you've got it all under one roof, and it's pleasing to be part of it.
So Munich is in 2023.
Yep.
And you may have some more Australian or New Zealand or Oceania printers out there that may be thinking of coming. Why do you think, as a printer, they should be coming here?
Oh, well, I think you'd be very foolish if you didn't. As I said before, you've got everything under one roof. You've got the opportunities, and now from the New Zealand-Australia thing, it's a little bit more organised as well. You know, they've got travel companies running as group tours. They've got site visits. They've got the functions that we have here together. They get introduced to other people. They see the best technology in the world. As I say, all under one roof. And there's no reason why you wouldn't. In fact, I'd be very foolish if you didn't come.
Great stuff. Thank you, Keith. Thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure.
You're a great member of our family, and thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Look forward to it.